The Purple Line is a community podcast, bringing you in-depth conversation with diverse leaders in the public and private sectors. Whether you're a student looking to gather advice or a professional tuning in for valuable resources, our dynamic programming provides tips for all ages and backgrounds. I'm your host, Emily Benavides, and this is The Purple Line.
Hello, and welcome to the Purple Line podcast. I'm your host, Emily Benavides, and today we're joined by Jeyben Castro, the Community Outreach and Engagement Director for the Chief Administrative Officer at the U.S. House of Representatives. Welcome, Jeyben.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate the invitation.
We're thrilled to have you. First things first, can you fill us in on your backstory? Where were you born, and how did you end up here in the United States?
So I was born in Nicaragua, small town in Nicaragua called Sauce. It's like barely a dot in the map. Was raised by my grandparents. At the age of 10, my mom came to the U.S. Civil unrest in Nicaragua, so they're like, we got to get you out of here. So my mom came first. She actually traveled through every single country, crossed every single border. I was lucky enough that, I didn't have to cross every border. I just flew to Mexico City. So I only had one border across. When I did that, we ended up in Miami. And I grew up in Miami till, guess around 15 when I moved to Central Florida. So Lakeland, which is the home of Publix, which, us in the South, we all love Publix. So anyways, yeah, that's how I got to the U.S.
It's a great story, and America's lucky to have you. You, in fact, went on to serve our great nation in the Navy. First of all, thank you so much for your service. But can you talk to us about how that experience helped you to become the servant leader that you are today?
So I understood that if I had stayed in Nicaragua at the age of 17, 18, I know that I would not have been finishing high school. As I mentioned, civil unrest, so they would take teenage boys to fight in the Civil War. So I knew that I would not be finishing high school, which is, my mom's side of the family. No one finished high school, so it would have been on burn, if you will. So I knew that, this country had given me the opportunity to do something that no one in my family had ever done, which was finish high school. So I knew that I had to give back to this country for the opportunities that it has given me. So that's why I joined the military as a way to say thank you. And it was a great decision. I think, I wasn't the best student. I tried, but I wasn't the best student. And I think that, the Navy really gave me an opportunity to kind of like focus. And it taught me the importance of being a servant leader. It taught me the importance of, being of service to the community. And, it's kind of led on to, the rest of my career. So I'm very happy, very proud of the 10 years I served in the Navy.
So you have now worked in both the United States Senate and the United States House of Representatives to ensure that the Hispanic community's perspective is at the table where these legislative decisions are being made. How much progress has been made in having that perspective at the table?
One of the reasons that I love what CHLI does is that organizations like CHLI is helping us grow that. So I'm very impressed with the process we've done so far. I started out in the Senate in 2015, and in the 9 years that I've been up here, you see that growth. You see, I'm not saying we've, grown our Latino, African-American, Asian communities by leaps and bounds, but we're heading the right way. We're heading the right way. And it's important for, organizations like CHLI to exist, to give the opportunity to those, to our communities, to be able to grow that pipeline. That pipeline is important for all of our communities. When I think of, what we have done since I've been here, I'm excited. There's a lot of work to be done, a lot more work to be done, but I'm excited. I'm hopeful.
Now I'm excited and hopeful.
Yeah.
You've built such a wonderful career being a champion of diversity. You're a successful advocate of creating more opportunities for the Hispanic community. And so I'm just wondering, what does diversity mean to you? Why are organizations better for having a more diverse workforce?
So for me, this what shaped my mind around this is, I think it started with me not being born in the U.S. Right? I wasn't born here. Like I said, I come from a very, very small town in Nicaragua. Like you can barely find it on the map. And I moved to Miami, and everybody kind of looks the same. In fact, I didn't even learn English when I was in Miami, right? Because
Oh, wow.
I very lame joke that a lot of us from Miami say is like, I grew up in Miami, and then when I was 15, I moved to the U.S. Because I didn't learn English when I was in Miami. So, it wasn't until I got to Central Florida that I learned English, and that I felt like I was finally part of what the U.S. is like. At the same time, found out what diversity is, right? Because in Miami, everybody looks the same. So, there's very little diversity. And so finding out what diversity was, finally feeling like someone other, right? Kind of introduced me to that thought of like, okay, now I know what diversity means. I was very lucky where, I barely, I had to learn English in Lakeland. There was very little Latinos. It was at the time that I moved to Lakeland of Central Florida, it was definitely one of those places where they like, oh, you're Latino. Do you know Maria? Yes, I actually do know Maria because there wasn't that many of us. And so that was like a wake-up call for me. But I was very lucky that my friends in high school were like awesome. They're still friends to this day. And it was funny because I introduced them to like the Latino culture, so it was great. But then I joined the military. In the military, they don't care what color you are. We're all, brothers and sisters, and so that just like built this like, okay, I didn't have a horrible experience learning what diversity was in Central Florida in a very white town. I didn't have it, but it was there. It was like, oh, wow, it was in your face that you are different. And then the military just kind of like put all the things together in of like, we're all here for the same mission. And I think my whole life experience has kind of like brought me to this world that I'm in, right? And understanding why it's important, why it's great, and for the work that I do in everything that I've been a part of. Because after the military, I went to corporate public affairs doing diversity training. It just made this understanding of why diversity matters.
Great. So, as you know, the stated vision for CHLI is advancing the Hispanic community's diversity of thought. And as one of our 2023 Vermillion Award winners, can you just talk about your relationship to CHLI and that vision?
So first of all, I want to take a quick second. Marianne, board of CHLI, thank you. Thank you so much. Honestly, when Marianne called me with the news, it was very special. It was very special. In diversity of thought, I love that because the importance of the work that I do right now under CAO and the Office of Talent Development, is trying to educate all of our communities about careers in Congress, right? And I know we're going to go into that in a bit, but the importance of diverse thought is we want people from all over the country, every single community. We want to make sure that they understand that, when you come to Congress, we need your life experiences, right? There was a report, I want to say 2019, that showed that about 54% of the staff in DC, right, for Congress in DC, are either from the Northeast or Southeast, which makes sense. We're Floridians. Well, I'm Floridian, sorry. Floridian. And for me to move up to DC, no biggie, right? Someone from New York to move down here, no biggie. Even someone from Ohio, it's not that far away, right, for them to come up here. But, we want to have the life experience of those from like New Mexico, Iowa, Texas, California, right? Like, regardless of your background, we want that, right? That regional diversity is also important because when you're writing policies like agriculture in New Mexico looks a heck of a lot different than Miami, right? And so, so I love what Chile does. I gotta admit, when I first heard, the great Lincoln Diaz Balart, his stump speech, if you will, of like diversity of thought, Chile diversity of thought. I was like, well, there's other organizations that are very, very like, we are definitely one-sided. And I was like, I don't know. But now I love Chile's, war cry on being, this diversity of thought. I think it's great. And I think it's important. And, especially on a time like today that we need to come together. So I'm a huge fan of Chile's war cry.
Especially in the fact that we are bicameral and bipartisan. We want to bring everyone together to bring perspectives to the table. You mentioned the Office of Talent and Development. Can you just tell me a little bit about this office and the services that you guys offer that might be helpful to our current global leader class or our alumni?
Yes. And my apologies, but I got my cheat sheet here. I want to make sure I hit every single point because we do a lot. A lot of the work, like I said, that we do, part of the mission that we have is to make sure we educate all of our communities about careers in Congress. I often use my own experience as an example why this matters. I was 28 years old. I had just moved to DC. I had spent 10 years in the military. I, traveled around the world. I was stationed in the Middle East. I was stationed in the Caribbean. I was stationed in Europe. And I didn't think that I was uneducated. I thought I was very educated. I had, lived around the world. And I'm 28 years old. And my first week at work, we went to an event. I was working corporate public affairs. And I met someone at a networking event, and you end up asking, "Where do you work?" "Oh, I work corporate. I do public affairs." "What about you?" They're like, "Oh, I work on the Hill." Which Hill? I had no clue that in DC, when you say I work on the Hill, it means Congress. I had never heard that term before, and I was like, "Which Hill?" And they're like, "Oh, I work in Congress." I was like, "Oh, wow. Are you an elected official? Are you congressman? What are you?" And they're like, no, I'm a staffer. ¿Qué es eso? Like, I had never been around this world of politics, the world of Congress. I knew we had congressional members. We had senators but I never thought they have a staff. They have people that work for them. They have people that do legislation, people that do communications. It was foreign to me. And I was like, wow, like that. I'm 28 years old and I'm just now learning this, And so that's what, part of the work that the Office of Talent Development does is educating our communities about careers in Congress, understanding that, again, back to, what we talked about just a minute ago about our life experience being important. And we want to have people that have different, diverse thoughts to come and experiences to come here. So how do we then, in the resources that we provide that I'm about to go into, I want to make sure that it's not just for current staffers, because we do help current staffers grow in their career. We do help interns, like your interns, grow in their careers. In fact, the great thing about the work that the Office of Talent Development does is under the same umbrella, we are also with the brand new House Intern Resource Office. So that's a brand new office that just started this year.
Wow.
Yeah. So we get to work with more people. We have a lot more resources. And for those listening in at colleges around the country or anywhere that they're listening in, and they're like, well, I'm not in DC. I'm not an intern, but I want to get those resources that Jeyben is about to talk about. Well, guess what? We provide these resources, again, for anyone on the Hill or off the Hill, and in person or virtual. So the resources that we provide, I want to make sure that I have it all here. For example, we do consultations, one-on-one consultations. Like, what does a resume for the Hill looks like?
We speak a whole different language.
Exactly. I've had plenty of people show up and like, look, I got my federal resume. Can you look it over? And it's a 6-page federal resume. And it's like, this looks awesome. And I know that Congress is federal, but not really. So let me tell you what a Hill resume looks like. Congressional resume looks completely different than a federal resume. So we'll work that with you. You've never interviewed for a job on the Hill. What kind of questions are they going to ask me? We do mock interviews to kind of get you prepared on like what kind of questions to look forward to. At any level of your career in Congress, from intern, staff assistant, all the way to chief of staff. So these consultations can be resume reviews, LinkedIn profile. DC is a networking city. Most people should know that. And part of that would probably include your LinkedIn profile, because obviously that is almost like your resume of your network. Right? Who do you know? So we'll do LinkedIn profile reviews and career discussions. Where are you going next? And part of, that is your one-on-one, let's get you ready into your career in Congress. And then we talk about what else falls under CAO under our umbrella in our office is the House Resume Bank. So if you need, if you want to put your resume up so people can see that you're looking for jobs, and this is accessible by all chief of staffs, all offices. So member offices, committees, and CAO, our own CAO umbrella, because CAO is actually 900 staff.
Wow.
We are nonpartisan. I should have started with that. We're nonpartisan. We don't mess with red or blue. We don't care what color you are, where your flag lands. We work with everyone. And under CAO is again nonpartisan. So we are like pay resources. We even have carpenters. We have communications because we have our own studios and things like that. So we are like, if you're interested in working with a member office or a committee, we're here to help you with that. But also as an FYI, we have a whole 900 staff that doesn't do any of that, but does a lot of the great work to support the members and committees. So House Resume Bank, the House LinkedIn recruiter platform, a lot of the jobs that we are now posting for member office committees and CAO are done through LinkedIn, so we can help you out with that. And career planning and development seminars that we do for member office committees and anyone that's interested in that kind of work.
So you mentioned the House Resume Bank. How can job applicants benefit from that House Resume Bank?
So it is both Democrat and Republicans do have their own separate resume banks, but the House Resume Bank is for everybody. And the good thing is that on the Resume Bank, you can look for jobs in DC. You can also look for jobs in districts, which is, one of the things that, I've always mentioned to interns. DC, obviously, we all know what DC Congress looks like. But don't forget about district offices. Every member, whether it be on the House or the Senate, they all have district offices, and they do amazing work. And obviously, the benefit of it is, you don't have to leave home. You can work from your district, from your state or city. And so it's a great way to think about it. And so the Resume Bank is there for everybody. And it's the easiest one you can find. You just Google U.S. House of Representative resume, and then boom, it takes you right there to it. Another great thing is election is around the corner. last Congress was the first time they did it, and they're going to do it again, and it falls under our purview, our office duties, is we're going to have something called new member resume bank. So as we know, the election is on Tuesday. By that Friday, they hope to have this new member resume bank, which is best way I can describe it is every new member, newly elected member, will have like a folder, right? And then you're like, oh, I want to work for this specific member. You put your resume on that specific folder for what job you want.
Oh, wow.
Right? It's awesome. It's awesome. There's a lot of great benefits, and our resources are so much, that we can provide now. I'm excited for it.
That's so tailored. I
Right?
love that.
I know.
So you also mentioned this House LinkedIn recruiter platform. How does that help job seekers?
So a member of committee will reach out and say, hey, we're looking to hire, we need X, Y, and Z. Whether it's here in DC or again, whether it's in the district. Especially for the district, the offices really love this program for the districts because we're using LinkedIn platform. And with LinkedIn platform, if it's like, oh, we need someone in Cincinnati, Ohio, right? They will, LinkedIn provides where you can just, circle around Cincinnati. You're looking to hire there, right? Because obviously district, you want to make sure someone's in the area. We're able to reach, it was some crazy number, like 2 million, 20 million. I don't know. It's in the millions of how many people we can reach through the LinkedIn program.
Wow.
And so offices love the fact that they're able to use, LinkedIn as a platform, because if you are looking to hire, LinkedIn is expensive, but our office pays for the services. So it's free for the offices.
Oh.
So it's free for the offices. We pay for the services. The offices get to use it for free. And then you as a job seeker, you are on LinkedIn, you get to see the messages. And so it's a very easy way to reach out to a lot of people. And for those who are looking, because we get resumes from all over the country and international. We have a lot of, American citizens who live across the world, and they'll see an opportunity to come back to the U.S. and work in Congress. And so we get resumes from all over the place. That's great.
So it helps ensure a diverse pool of applicants. That's
Exactly.
great.
Yeah.
So how can individuals also access these weekly job openings that you talked about through the House vacancy announcement placement service?
It's another great service that we have. So for those who are in college right now, the closest thing that I can compare it to is the career counselors, right? Where you come in and talk about your career and how they can help you. Career coaches for those that are outside of college would be the closest thing that I can think of. But, we're going to personalize, your resume to you, right? One of the first thing, I tell people is you have to have more than one resume. Right, depending on what career path you're going or industry you're applying to, right? I mentioned, federal resumes don't look anything like Hill resumes. And, that 6-page federal resume is great if you're applying to anywhere outside of the Hill. But for the Hill, we're going to focus on what makes sense for you. We're going to go ahead and personalize that for you. It's a very personalized way to help you go where you need to go on the Hill.
Beautiful. Beautiful. So how do the career planning and development seminars that you mentioned help contribute to the professional growth of folks on the Hill?
So these are fun. They are always fun for me because, we show up and we tell you about the resources we provide, resources we've already talked to, how we can help in your career. What's your career path? What's going to go through? But I love doing these seminars because you get a lot of great questions from the audience, right? For example, networking is always a huge question from the audience. So I love talking about networking. It's probably one of my favorite things to talk about. Although I personally don't call it networking, I do because that's what people understand. But to me, I don't network. I meet new friends. That's what I like to do.
That's a great way to put it.
Yes. So like I use the word network because like that's what people understand. But for me, like I can't network. I love meeting new friends. That I can do all day, every day. I like to give thanks to my mom. I like to say that I have about 20% of my mom's personality because my mom has never met a stranger. You know, it's always new friends. Like I don't care. Even now that she's retired, you know, like callers like, oh, my friend, you know, the one that blah, blah, blah. I'm like, Mom, you have too many friends for you. So what are you talking about? But anyway, so that I can do, right? And so with these seminars, you know, that's the great thing of like being able to talk to people and not only educating them about our resources, but hearing, you know, the questions that come up because all the questions are all about careers. So you might be thinking of a question that someone else asked, or you might not even be thinking about that. And someone asks. So they're all great. So if you guys learn about any seminars that we're putting together, please consider attending. Most of them are, you know, we do both in person and virtual. So, you know, you don't have to be in DC again to be able to take advantage of the resources that we have.
Wonderful. And finally, what advice would you give your younger self or our current global leader interns or any other intern in the city here, you know, about what you have learned since you got to DC?
I think, well, for any intern, global leader that's here, my advice to you is be hungry. Be hungry. There's, you know, you got to think about what got you to this position, what got you here. For me, it was my mom, right? Single mom, came here to this country, obviously undocumented, had 2 jobs, you know, when we're in Miami. I barely saw her, and she educated me with, you know, with her actions, that you got to work hard, right? So I've always taken up opportunities by being hungry, you know, and so I always have this memory of this one intern. When I meet interns, right, when I talk to interns, I usually talk to a class of interns, and I always offer to grab coffee with them, right? Our famous coffee meetings. 2 weeks after they start, I'm like, 2 weeks after you start, hit me up. I'll meet with you for coffee. And I met with this one intern. She's African-American, was working in the Senate. And in the Senate, you usually have about 10, 15 interns. It's a big class of interns, especially in the summer. 2 weeks later, we meet up and she's like, you know, thank you for, you know, talking to us. You know, I've really been, you know, hungry. I've really been hungry. So I appreciate that. I was like, okay, what about, you know, how's your experience been so far? And she's like, well, everybody in all the other interns are shy. I'm like, what do you mean they're shy? She's like, well, you know, we get a lot of phone calls and we're supposed to answer phone calls. And they're all shy and they don't answer the phone calls. I'm like, really? Yeah. She's like, but that's okay. I don't mind it. And in my mind, I'm being hungry. I'm answering those phone calls. I said, okay, cool. I don't think they were shy. That's not what I was thinking. But fast forward, when she ended up her internship, she told me that at the end of the internship, the intern as a group asked their supervisor if they could have a letter of recommendation. The supervisor in this Senate office said, no, you know, we have a policy, we don't write letters. But thank you for being an intern. They all walked away. They called her back and they said, well, not only do we want to write a letter of recommendation for you, but we want to offer you a job.
Wow.
You know, so for anyone that's coming in, look, be hungry. Like, don't let anyone outwork you. Okay. That's what I've always, you know, tried to live by because, again, the example that my mom gave me. Right. And, you know, I want to make mom proud. Right. So that's what I've always done. What I would tell myself, I think is, you know, trust what you're doing. You know, I don't have a linear path to where I'm at, you know, and I've gotten to where I got by, you know, always being ready, always being hungry, but I didn't always trust it, right? But I would tell that is trust it. It's not a linear path. I'm very happy with what I do. I'm very happy with my life right now. I think if someone were to ask me, are you happy? I would say, yes, I'm happy. I love the work that the office does. I love the mission of the office. And I'm really excited to come to work every day.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
It wasn't a linear path, but it was the right path for you.
Exactly.
You have built such a wonderful career being a champion of diversity. You're a successful advocate for creating more opportunities for the Hispanic community. What does diversity mean to you? Like, why are organizations better for having a more diverse workforce?
So I think the importance of diversity has been, kind of a staple throughout my life. I mentioned, not being born here in the U.S. I've mentioned, growing up in Miami, Central Florida, the military. After the military, I went corporate, public affairs. In those early years, we didn't have an Office of Diversity and Inclusion. We didn't have Director of Diversity. We had public affairs, and that's where diversity lived. And I was a diversity trainer. And, there's plenty of reports, out there that clearly shows the difference between a company that's more diverse versus a company that's less diverse when it comes to, the bottom dollar. Who's making more money, right? It's having that diversity within a organization that it has clearly been studied already, clearly has the numbers to show it, right? And the importance for me is, it's not just, diversity as a whole for me is not just like race, ethnicity, gender. It's as I mentioned earlier, regional diversity, right? Socioeconomic backgrounds, right? Because we all have our own diverse experiences, right? And an organization that can really bring that together, we all learn. We all learn, we all learn from all kind of people, right? Which is exciting. And it's not, a lot of people say diversity, oh, we do it to be kind or be nice. But no, it's also smart, right? It's also, you want to bring in diverse viewpoints, right? Going back to Chile, right? The diverse viewpoints. And it's not just to be, nice or kind or whatever. It's to be able to be successful, be able to learn, be able to bring in. I mean, I remember, in the military, which was my first real, like, in the face of diversity because of, boot camp. I remember boot camp, I was like talking to people from Detroit. I was a Florida guy, Mississippi, Puerto Rico, like everywhere, right? And I was learning from them, right? And so that was like, again, probably the beginning of it. But again, it's not what I'm saying why diversity works. Like I said, there's already been enough research done that can tell you why. And I think if you want to be successful, if you want the outcome of your organization to succeed, you understand that. So that's why diversity is important.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, Jeyben, thank you so much for joining us here on the Purple Line podcast.
I really, really appreciate it. This has been great. I've been a big fan of Chile for a very long time. And I want to support Chile in any which way I can. So if it is having me here at your podcast, whatever granito de sal that I can put on there, I'm happy to, come out and help out and support. So
Well, we're honored to have your insights to share with our audience. Thanks again.
Thanks for listening to The Purple Line. For the latest updates, follow CHLI on social media at THECHLI. And you can follow me at EMBENA. Thank you for joining us on The Purple Line.